Hello, listeners. Thank you for joining me on 21st Century Native Leaders. My name is Peter Deswood III. I hope you enjoy this podcast episode. Please comment and share this so other people can hear the experiences of my guest today. Thank you and enjoy. Hello, listeners. Thank you for joining me on 21st Century Native Leaders. My name is Peter Deswood III, and I'm here with Harold Bennally. Harold is an ultra marathoner and is an ultra marathon race director. Thanks for being on the show, Harold.
Hey, good morning. Thank you.
Absolutely. Harold, tell me a little bit about yourself, your tribal affiliation, and your clans.
I'm from the Navajo Nation. I'm a Navajo. My clans are Kiani, Tachini, Sitnajini, and Tabana.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I'm Touchini too, so I might be your dad. Somehow like that, right? So, how did you get into running?
I got into running as a young kid. Growing up, I grew up traditionally. My paternal grandfather, he's a traditional medicine man, and my father, he grew up the same way, and they both know a lot about the culture and what running is significantly. And my grandfather, he was a runner, but he didn't do it for sport. He just did it for his own transportation. He grew up on the middle of nowhere, so the only thing he could do is travel by foot, and a lot of it was by running. And he really pointed those out to me, and the relationship with the culture of what running is. And that's the way I grew up, and that's the way my father disciplined me through running and relating it to the culture. And that's how I started this. I don't remember what age I started, but as far as I know, I've been going out to do stuff, running after sheep and cattle and horses, and that's how I grew up.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So you said you're in Page. Did you go to school with Sean Martin?
Oh yeah, Sean and I, we lived really close together. We grew up almost the same neighborhood. We've been running together for a very long time. So we were on the same teams growing up in junior high and high school. So we were state champ teams, and so we know each other really well.
That's awesome. I had interviewed him back about 8 or 9 episodes ago. But what do you think it is that why do you think natives are into running and so, I guess, equipped or athletically inclined to be distance runners?
I think a lot of it. Well, for me, I feel that it's in our blood. It's in our DNA, and a lot of it is within our culture. I mean, every one of the tribes, they have something significant with running, and it seems to be number one priority. Seems like for anything kind of transportation or something. They're always doing something with their legs. But that's what I feel is, as Native Americans, we have a really high tolerance and endurance, just by adapting to our surroundings and how we grew up and what our ancestors had been through. And I really feel that mentally we are strong people. So.
Absolutely, I agree with that. So talk with me. I mean, I know you ran cross country. How did you take the next step from just running marathons to doing ultra marathons? I see your work and your travels on Instagram, and I see you doing these really long, 40, 50 miles or 30 kilometer or 50 kilometer races. What made you take it to that next step?
What really took me to the step before that is I went to high school, went collegiate to a JC in Tucson, and I ran there for a couple of years. And I stopped for numerous years, and I didn't pick up running again until Sean. We're talking, and he said, I'm going to set up a race. I'm going to set up a Lechee Ultra. This is what it is. This is what happened to me, and I was one of the first persons that he told, and that fired me up. Having some experience the way he experienced, and I saw how it moved him, and I felt that with me. We grew up basically as brothers, and I knew what he was feeling, and that really touched me. So I said, I'm going to be part of this. I want to be part of what you're doing for everybody. So that got me training, and I actually never ran a marathon before that, and never ran anything longer than 18 miles, 20 miles. And my first marathon was Shiprock Marathon, and he told me just to do it as a training run. So, in my back of my mind, I want to do this fast. I know this is a Boston Marathon qualifier. I want to see if I can go to Boston too. So, I had these other smaller goals on the way to being an ultra runner. And my first ultra was that same year, maybe 3 or 4 months into my training. I did a 50K, and I started from there, and then eventually went up to doing 50 milers. So, and this February, I'm thinking about doing 100K. So.
Wow, that's awesome. I interviewed a guy. He's from Dilcon area, Jimmy Joe. He lives in Europe, but he does 100-mile races, 125-mile races. He does really well in Germany. But I interviewed him, and he had some really good information to share about. I guess, I don't know, what is it? 2 ultras? Is that what they are?
Yeah, it's like 100-miler.
Yeah, so it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I have quite a bit of friends that do 100-milers, and one guy doing 200 miles, and man, it's just so crazy. It's just going more and more all at once. So
absolutely,
stepping it up all the time.
So how do you train for a race like that? I mean, my wife and I, we do half marathons, and that's about it. I think I've done 2 full marathons, but I had no kids, and I was in college. I mean, how do you do that? How do you train? How do you make the time for? How do you put in the miles to run for 50 miles?
The way I do it is I've been just building up time on my feet. Mostly that's what it is, and doing it slowly and building on the way up. Like I'll do 10 milers every single day for a week, and I'll just keep building from 10, and it goes up. And then depending on the race that I'm doing, I'll schedule like longer runs, training runs, and specifically just for the race and run or whatever it is I'm doing. I'll do my homework with elevation profiles and see how much climbing, descending, and I'll do my training based on that. If I need to do some climbing, then I'll go into the mountains or find some really long uphill stuff, and I'll just go up and down, that stuff. Just a lot of homework and a lot of things, discipline that you have to do this. And sometimes it's in the dark. You have no choice but to run in the dark for a while and do your training that way. There's just a lot of sacrificing to do, put in the time on your feet for something like that.
Absolutely. So tell me about the mental aspect of it. I mean, how do you go into a zone whenever you're running that long distance, or I mean, what do you do with it? And what do you do mentally?
Mentally, like I said, I try to do my homework as much as possible and do my training towards it. And mentally, I just have to stay on the pace. Even though I feel really great, but I know maybe 5 miles from now I won't be feeling great. So sticking to my plan, sticking to my training, that helps me out a lot mentally. but I know sometimes temperature gets in there. There's climbing, that all these other distractions that come into a run, and could be like blisters, or could be a pain in the knee or the hip or something in the back. But it's just taking control of it and motivating yourself, what you're doing it for, who you're doing it for, and where you're coming from. In my mind, I just ran the Canyon de Chelly Ultra 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I did it in moccasins, and I never ran that distance in moccasins. And I showed up the day before, checked out the course, and there's stream water going down the stream the whole Canyon de Chelly. And so I mentally had to prepare myself. Am I going to do this in moccasins or not? Am I going to just use my regular trail shoes? And so I decided I was going to use my trail shoes. And the evening came, race meeting came up, and Sean's up there talking about the race and all these different factors going on. And through the day, I kind of found out what was going on out there, and I didn't know what the details were, but I know everybody was going through a hardship, and I knew that everyone's was sad about some things that were happening that day and through the whole week, and mentally I just like, this is like a message. It's like, I'm here for something. I'm here for a reason. And my thoughts of doing this run in moccasins, that came to me before everything. And I can't just have water make me decide not to use my shoes. So what I did was I said, I'm going to do this in moccasins. I'm going to do this for you guys. I'm going to do this for my brothers. And this is something that needs to be done here that's going to really have a positive impact on what's happening here in Canyon de Chelly and Jinling. And so the next morning I strapped my moccasins on and I went. And I wasn't planning to hit the stream in the water till 6 miles into the course, but 0.8 miles into the course, we have water coming through the canyon. And from then on, my moccasins were soaked, feeling the weight of the water and for all those miles. And I got to mile 17 at the turnaround. I had extra pair of shoes there, but I saw everybody there, and I saw the expressions and the feelings that that was exposed there. Me showing up and shooting the moccasins. And I said, I got to keep going with this. It's gonna really help a lot of people. And so I continue on carrying all the extra weight, and no matter how slow I was going compared to my normal speed, I was fine with it. I just wanted to finish, and I just wanted to get the run over with, and all for good reasons. It was mentally difficult, but I still did it. And my next goal, my long-term goal right now, is to complete the Boston Marathon in moccasins, which me and the guys that we've been talking about, we talked about it. And as far as we know, there hasn't been a indigenous runner to have completed the Boston Marathon in moccasins. So that's what I'm training for right now. And doing I'll be doing a lot of speed stuff on the road, the track, with moccasins, and getting my feet really numb to going that distance.
Wow, that's amazing. I remember seeing your pics whenever you had finished the race, and I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, that's like minimals, correct? Very similar?
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. So do you have to have a special moccasin made with a thicker sole?
I just use the regular moccasins, if it was even thicker, it's going to get even heavier. So I think more minimal, I think it'd be better for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to get some custom made moccasins done for me from a lady from Navajo Mountain. And she does some really good custom work. So I'm going to work with her and see if she can do that for me.
That's awesome. So I talked with you a little bit about the training and how you prepare and mentally. How important is your diet, what you eat, what you put into your body?
Oh, it's really important to me because I've gone through other diets and with other training. Like when I wasn't running, I had a diet of just gaining muscle, and I got really bulky. So I know what kind of food I'm supposed to be eating for as far as running. It didn't really get like that until I started doing these longer distances. Because in junior high, high school, even college, my metabolism was so high that I just got to eat and put anything in my body and I'll be fine. But being older now, the diet is really important because it can dramatically go one way, it can dramatically go the other way. So I do a lot of vegetables. Now and then I'll have meat, but not as often. But most of the time, a lot of vegetables and more fluids than anything else. So.
That's awesome. And how do you avoid overtraining and injuries?
Overtraining, I think I've overtrained a couple times. That's because I got to know that because my body started getting tired really fast. My injuries haven't really flared up in those cases, but my overtraining, I can feel this. I'm just tired all the time. I'm trying to move in my runs, and I can't move. And, after all, I can put in 100-mile week and then feel fine, but 2 weeks later I'll be drained. I won't even want to run. I'm just really, really tired, and I just feel like I can't do anything more than what I want to do. It's just, that happens to me a few times. But to avoid that, I try to step back and do other workouts. I go cross train. I have a mountain bike and I do some biking. I try to work different muscles, but still be active all the time. As far as injuries, the only kind of injuries I would get is if I'm not training that body part very much and I use it over a long period of time, then I'll get an injury like something with a pinched nerve or something with my body alignment going out of not being aligned. So I'll go to the chiropractor. I'll do 3 or 4 visits with them, and he'll get my body back in shape. But with injuries, but I do a lot of things with form drills. I'm really particular on how my foot steps and where my body is positioned, my hips, and I take all that in consideration when I'm training. I do a lot of training here in the sand, in the canyons, and it helps with a lot of the smaller muscles in my foot. It just strengthens everything else, and that's a great part about running with moccasins out there is that it strengthens the foot a lot. It's not like a regular footwear like any kind of running shoes, where you have a lot of support and there's a lot of cushion. And with moccasins, you can actually really strengthen all the tinier, smaller muscle fibers that are weakened from wearing the other shoes. Where wearing minimals, you can really strengthen everything around in your foot and around the ankle. So I do that. I've been doing that. So that way, that's the reason why it wasn't really a big problem running 34 miles in the moccasins, because I've already been training in it and been using them. So.
Well, that's amazing. It's very intricate and all the way down to the very little muscles in your foot and your body. So tell me about the upcoming Canyon X Half Marathon.
The Canyon X Half Marathon, I just set up this race. I've been eyeballing this course for some years now, maybe 4 years. I've been trying to set up this a race specifically in this canyon for this kind of distance, where it's not long distance and it's not really short distance. It's kind of in between, where you can enjoy the canyon. You can enjoy where I basically grew up around this whole area. It's a really beautiful place here, and to share with other people, that's what I wanted to do. And finally, I see an opportunity to set up a event for it, and at the same time to benefit what I'm doing. It's going to be a fundraiser event for my fundings to Boston Marathon, and that's what the event's for. But it's scheduled for January 5th, 2019. Starts at 10 o'clock. Get like 5 hours to finish it, and so that's what the Canyon X Half Marathon is for, and this is what it says.
Is it a pretty challenging course, all sand?
It's all dirt. It's 100% dirt, but at that time of year, the sand is still coming out of its frost, so it's still a little bit, it's not frozen, but it's still wet from the moisture, so it's not going to be sandy. So it's going to be a pretty fast course compared to a dry sand like in summer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's made for it's a good distance, and it's going to be sandy, so it's not going to be really tough. But going in and out of the canyon, it's just long climbs, but there's nothing really steep and hard about it. So
Nice.
Pretty much for everybody.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about guided ultramarathons.
Guided ultramarathon?
Yeah, do you guide ultramarathons in the Four Corners area?
Actually, yeah, I host an ultramarathon out in Navajo Mountain. It's the first weekend of August, actually. So I work with the Navajo Mountain Chapter House out there, and with the Ehini Day group, and they facilitate. They set up a celebration event for the elders out there, and specifically for them, they do a lot of games and horse racing, and there's another gal that hosts a 5K race there, and the only reason why I wanted to be part of it is because of what the event is set up for, is for the appreciation of the elders. And the way I look at it is using that kind of distance to show the elders and the people that we're Navajo and we're still out here running these distances that our ancestors and our grandparents were running, and it hasn't been forgotten. So I call that the moccasin run. I've had, and since then I've been using significantly the moccasin as a symbol, and I've had runners from all over the res complete these distances in moccasins, and one in particular, he's going to be coming out to Canyon X, and he's going to be out there running, and he's actually doing my pottery awards for the event. And so it's a pretty good race for what it stands for, and the funding that comes in for that event goes back into the chapter house with the Ehini Day celebration, and so the funding goes back in there, and whatever supplies that we need to use for the run, as far as like food and things like that, then the other part of the funding goes there.
That's awesome. So I also noticed you're an ambassador for Red Earth Running Company. How did you get to that point?
Red Earth Running Company actually found me. They found me just earlier this year, just around springtime. They found me. They talked to me, and I wanted to see what kind of what the business was about and what they stood for. We had a couple meetings, and we had a long discussion, and I liked what they stand for because it really relates to why I set up my ultra at Navajo Mountain, and it relates a lot to what I'm already doing, and that's what they liked, and at the same time I like what they're doing. So we just hooked up and teamed up and started going together. So
That's awesome. I also interviewed Dirk Whitebreast. He's a pretty cool dude.
yeah,
he's
actually coming out to Canyon X too.
Oh, he's gonna run it?
Yeah, he's gonna be out here.
Oh, dang!
He wants to enjoy. He wants to see this whole place here. So he's pretty excited. So I'm excited too because there's a lot of people that are going to be coming. A lot of big name peoples. Just this morning, I got an email this morning, so I was checking. I get emails from the race when somebody signs up. And this morning, I got an email that's going to be a guy who lives in Flagstaff. He's really well known in the ultra world, ultra running, marathon running world. And he just signed up to run the half marathon. And he's never done a half. He never ever signed up for a half marathon. And he does like 50 Ks, 50 milers, 100 milers. That's the kind of guy he is. And right now he owns, I don't know how many course records in the United States with 50 milers, 50 Ks and 100 milers. And he's going to come to the race and run the course and be there and support. And it's great, man. There's just so many good people that will be showing up and in support of this event.
That's so awesome. That's cool. So how can people register for that run?
They can register online. I use the ultrasignup.com. Just the way it's spelled, all one word, ultrasignup.com. And just go into search bar and look up Canyon X Half Marathon. And it should pop up. It should say the location, which is Lechee Rock, Arizona. And just open it up and click the register button. I have the race capped at 150 runners, so you'd be lucky to get in before it fills up. So
that's awesome.
And I know it's going to fill up. So.
Right, that's good. So how can people follow you? I know you're on Instagram, but how can people follow you?
I'm on Instagram with my name, Harold Bennally. And then I'm on Facebook with my name, Harold Bennally. And also, I am on a running app called Strava. And it's Strava. And it's a GPS app that's really hooked up to my watch. And it's really similar to how Facebook is. You get to upload your run, and it'll show in detail where you went, how many feet you climbed, how many feet you descent. It'll show your pace, and it's just a great app. And you can actually communicate with other runners, and just like adding a comment here, or you add up, you like the course or you like the run they just did. It's a really good app to really connect with other people. A lot of big time ultra runners, like the one that's coming to our race. He's on that app, and there's a lot of good people that you can communicate with and see what actually kind of training they do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty good. That's how you can follow me.
Sweet, that's awesome. Do you want to give yourself a plug, the race, the Canyon X?
Yeah, just come on out to KNX, the half marathon, and have some Navajo stew, fry bread, Navajo tortilla, some blue mice. We're going to have some awesome shirts coming out, and which a guy from Tube City, he's going to print those up for me. So we got a lot of good people, and come out and meet some runners that are just amazing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of great people there. So I'm really looking forward to having everybody meet one another, and especially everyone that's been supporting me for a long time. So they're going to be there, and my family's going to be there. They're cooking everything. So it's going to be awesome. And just come on out and enjoy yourself out there.
That's cool. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it sounds like you run 100 miles a week, and with your job and balancing those responsibilities.
Oh, and also like some of the fundings that do come in through the races, I give back to student athletes in the area here, and I've been helping specifically in Shanto area. So I like to, if I can help someone with shoes or something like that, then yeah, reach out to me, and race fund goes that way. So it's things like that I want to give back, because me growing up, I never had these kind of incentives from the outside. It was like that. We kind of had to provide our own thing. And my first official running shoes was from Payless shoe store. So $8 shoe, and that was my running shoe for the season. And to look back on that keeps me pretty humble. As much as I wanted the best shoes out there on the market, but I want to try to help at least one person, something like that, to continue to do what they want to do, rather than trying to be held back by something like that.
That's so awesome. It's so interesting, because yesterday I was just talking with my wife. She's like, well, I want to get my daughter, our daughter, the new Vans, right? The checkered Vans from the 80s. I'm like, and she's a 10-year-old, and I was telling my wife, I said, man, I remember growing up, I used to get Payless shoes. Those tennis shoes for like $15, and because, feet grew so fast. We had 4 in our family. We couldn't just go out and buy new shoes every 3 months because of, because your feet grew so quickly. And it's just so interesting how the stories the story you just shared is similar to what I just shared with my wife yesterday. But it also shows you how far, I guess, we've come, from as children and to adults, professional adults. It's kind of amazing how far we've come as Navajo people.
Okay.
All right, man. Hey, hopefully I'll meet up with you. Maybe my wife will look into running the Canyon X if we can get registered in time.
Cool. That'd be awesome. Yeah, just come out and do a podcast with everybody out there or something like that.
Absolutely. That sounds like a good idea. All right, man. Harold, take care, okay? And keep fighting, man. Hello, listeners. I hope you enjoyed this episode, listening to the challenges and the tribulations of the guests that I had today. Please follow me on 21st Century Native Leaders. Go to my page, give my page a like for future episodes, and also for quotes from books that I read, articles that I read, and the pictures are from Indian country, but in particular the Navajo Nation. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully you come back and hear another future episode. Have a good day. Yeah.